WL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. Without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Kirk Cousins and kind of, what's his future? Where is he going to be? He's such an interesting, he's in an interesting position because he has the Achilles injury, but he's not so amazing, say, like an Aaron Rodgers, that teams would be willing to take a gamble, right? I'm pretty sure many teams, any team that needs a quarterback, outside of someone who obviously already has, like a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, of course, you're not really probably going to take too much of a chance on, or you're going to take a chance on Aaron Rodgers, right? You're going to be like, okay, let me see what we can have for him, especially if the price is right. Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, coming back from an Achilles, it's a different mentality, right? Like I think Kirk Cousins is actually a really good quarterback, but he's obviously not an Aaron Rodgers. So, and predicting how someone's going to recover, it's impossible, absolutely impossible. I've had so many injuries, been with so many physical therapists, orthopedic surgeons, surgery, not surgery, all the things. It's impossible to predict. Kirk Cousins can make a complete full recovery, and Aaron Rodgers could not. And people probably believe that Aaron Rodgers is more likely to recover fully than Kirk Cousins. I mean, you just have no idea. And I don't know if Kirk Cousins got the same type of surgery that Aaron Rodgers got. Aaron Rodgers got that, to my knowledge, that like internal split. I don't even know if they got splint. I don't even know if they had the same surgeon. I mean, I really don't. It seems like they definitely had different recovery, rehab strategies. But so it's really interesting to see. But I'm curious to see what they have to say, and then we can break it down from there. But as I was queuing this clip up, I was trying to think, like, where would I like to see Kirk Cousins go, or what are the possibilities? And I really don't know, honestly, especially because of the injury. If there was no injury, then I think it would be really easy. There's a couple teams that I would absolutely want to see him go, and one of them would probably upset a lot of people. One of them being the 49ers. And that's not to say that Brock Purdy isn't a good quarterback.
13-4 to 4-4. And he led the NFL with 18 passes, passing touchdowns at the time. He hurt his Achilles. So what is the best fit for Kirk?
I mean, okay. So this is where I'll
Don't do it. The guy's making $880 and just took Mahomes to overtime.
Hey, buddy. Let me give the take. Kirk Cousins has made $231 million in his career. 11th most all time. He's going to finish in the top 10 of all football players ever. The best fit, if he wants to win a Super Bowl, is to go to his, the old high school sweetheart. And the guy that didn't scout Patrick Mahomes because he was so certain he was getting Kirk Cousins in Kyle Shanahan. And I know people will be mad. It's unfair to Brock. Sports can be unfair. Sorry. The Niners would be better. They have been to 4 NFC championship games the last 5 years. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. They can't get over the hump because the gap has been that big at quarterback, among other reasons. Again, Purdy played fine in the Super Bowl. He's not the reason they lost. But if they had a difference maker at quarterback, maybe it goes differently. And by the way, doesn't mean you lose Brock Purdy. You have Brock Purdy under contract for the next 2 years.
Maybe it goes differently. Well, so indirectly, Nick Wright just kind of admitted that if he faced better quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, then Patrick Mahomes may not be winning all these Super Bowls. Do you want to admit that? Because you just did. You don't think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. You don't think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. And you don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. So Patrick Mahomes has beaten 3 bad quarterbacks from Nick Wright's viewpoint. Is that what GOATs do? I don't know. Tom Brady's beaten quarterbacks like Kurt Warner. This is going to be a funny clip because I'm going to clearly annoy both 49ers fans and Chiefs fans.
Years for $880,000 and then $1.1 million. So the best fit is San Francisco on a cheap deal. Now, will he take less money? I don't know. If he would, I bet you Kyle would do it. I think he's wanted Kirk Cousins for better part of 7 years, and so that's the answer.
Look, I'm not going to sit here, as much as I like Purdy, and say he's better than Kirk Cousins or definitely better than Kirk Cousins. But what is Kirk Cousins' deficiency? Big games, big moments, prime time, right? I mean, we know that's not a problem with Brock Purdy.
Do we?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Okay.
Where are the goalposts?
Yeah, where are
I
the
mean,
goalposts?
What do
you're
you
lucky
mean?
they're not in here. You wanted him to prove he could come back. He did it twice in the
small
playoffs.
goalposts.
17-point deficit.
Yes, and as you guys said, played well in the Super Bowl. Not awesome, but well. We don't know if Kirk Cousins does that. And as much as I like Cousins, because he is great in the regular season when it's at 1 o'clock and nobody's watching. I'm just saying that, Nick, because they got to win it next year. They got to win it
Right,
next
which
year,
is
so
why
it'd be
they
a
should
lot
try
of
to
pressure
upgrade their biggest
on Kirk
weakness.
Cousins. That's all I'm saying.
Cousins to me is a Viking. O'Connell likes him. Kwesi, the GM, this is his first big decision. The fully guaranteed or the not fully guaranteed. Look, they've given him fully guaranteed money in the past. Is that necessarily an end-all, be-all for Kirk Cousins? To your point, he's made the 11th most money in the NFL history. They're happy in Minnesota. They built their home. You watch the quarterback. I think the greatest thing for Kirk Cousins, as sad as it sounds, was that quarterback series on Netflix. I think he endeared a lot of people.
Well,
I think he came a long way, and I think people are rooting for Kirk Cousins as opposed to him being a punching bag and a strongman. He's being put on the NFL honors and a dancing thing, and we laugh with him, not at him, which I think is huge. And I think Vikings fans appreciate what he is and what they became without him. I'd be shocked if they let him walk out the building there. So to me, this.
Yeah, I think the Vikings originally had this idea that they could easily move off him. And especially when they started to get a little bit of success with some backup quarterbacks, but then that fizzled out completely, right? Like that just ended spectacularly poorly. Kirk Cousins is not sexy. He's not cool. He's not hip. He's not controversial. He's not, right, like he's not showing up on Joe Rogan podcasts. He's not selling Nike shoes. He's not doing, the Sleep Number commercials like Dak Prescott. He just looks like he's not, this highlight reel, scrambling for miles and then throwing, a bomb. He's just seen as just like, at this point, an old white guy who's a quarterback. Seriously, Joe Burrow's cool. Josh Allen is young and cool, dating some beautiful, actress. Trevor Lawrence got like the crazy long hair and the cannon arm. All these quarterbacks are cool and they have defining things about them. Justin Herbert, good looking guy. Also the long, quarterback hair, as well as, famously a super genius, right? Like a literal super genius. Like, all of these other quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, super cool. All of these guys have these traits that elevate them and really build them up and build up their brand. And Kirk Cousins doesn't have that. And now people lean on Kirk Cousins not showing up in primetime games. If you really watch some of those games, it's not that just Kirk Cousins can't handle it or that he just becomes a spaz or he can't handle the moment. I think that's a little unfair. Does that happen at times? Of course, but that happens to every single quarterback. It's a combination between some bad luck and bad timing that just happens when his games are. Like, I don't think Kirk Cousins is extra nervous on a Thursday night game versus, a 1 o'clock game. I just don't see that. I just do not see that. And I think also you have to understand, look at all these amazing players who do amazing things, okay? Whether it's a Kurt Warner, whether it's obviously Patrick Mahomes and Andy, and Tom Brady, like they all have amazing weapons, amazing coaches. Like they have legends around them. Travis Kelce, Andy Reid they're legends, okay? Legends. Tom Brady, Gronk, Belichick, legends. Even Edelman at this point, legends. Moss, legends. They have legends around them. Players that people will remember forever. Kirk Cousins has not had that. He has not had that. He was spent his career, a huge bulk of his career, and might be majority of his career at this point. I'm not sure. Time is a crazy, crazy thing. With the Commanders, who weren't even the Commanders. They were a completely different team, which I'm not even going to say the name because I don't even know what you're allowed to say on YouTube anymore. It's just like they were, and it was a disaster. It was a bizarre thing. Again, I'm an Eagles fan, so I've watched a lot of those games, and it was just like bizarre to watch. And Kirk Cousins could win some big games in those moments, competitive moments that he could win. But you're talking about a terribly run franchise. And then he goes to the Minnesota Vikings, and it's like, who have the Minnesota Vikings been in 20 years? Nothing. You know, he played for years under a defensive head coach, which we know is not the recipe to success. We know that, okay? We know that. In the modern NFL, you can't have it. And unless you are as an amazing player as like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, then it's going to be very hard to overcome. Very hard to overcome. So you're going to put unfair expectations on Kirk Cousins. Right, is Kirk Cousins a top 3 quarterback? No, he's not, right? Is he a great quarterback? Really, really, really great quarterback? Really good? A good leader? Composed? Drama-free? Family guy? Great representation of a franchise? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't think Kirk Cousins shrinks in any moment, quite honestly. I really, really don't. So any team who needs a quarterback would be better with Kirk Cousins, right? I mean, would the Falcons be better? Yes. Would the Panthers be better? Yes. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a little bit more controversial teams. Would the Giants be better? Yes. You know, I mean, would the Bills be better? No. Would the Chiefs be better? No. Right? Of course not. Would the Colts be better? Yes. Absolutely. So that's the way you have to look at it. Now, to bring it to the more controversial side of things, is the real question is how would the 49ers fare with Kirk Cousins? And I think very, very well. I think if Kirk Cousins was a quarterback, they would make the Super Bowl. They would have made the Super Bowl this year. Brock Purdy played a very solid playoff run, right? Very solid. And I give him the grace. I have consistently, if you're just watching this video and you've never seen me talk about Brock Purdy before, I have consistently praised Brock Purdy. I've told everyone to step on the brakes, but I said Brock Purdy showed me a lot. I showed that he has done things that many other quarterbacks haven't, and then I have, faith in him. I think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback and a deserving quarterback, okay? But in the playoff series against the Packers, the Lions, and then the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy was not a difference maker. Yes, he against the Lions and against the Packers, he was able to kind of lead a comeback and win. But it wasn't because of Brock Purdy's brilliance. He did some great things, but you could also make the argument that they were partially in that hole because Brock Purdy wasn't playing good enough prior. Kirk Cousins is just a smoother quarterback in that regard. So you would imagine that if Kirk Cousins was the quarterback against the Packers, they wouldn't need a late comeback. If Kirk Cousins was the quarterback against the Lions and they still put up all those points, I have to imagine Brock Purdy didn't do anything magical that game that shows me that Kirk Cousins couldn't. And then now let's get to the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy definitely never had any magical moments. He made some great throws and impressed me. He stepped up in the first half, and I was very impressed. He did exactly what I thought they were going to do. Shanahan, I said, just set Brock Purdy up for success. Lean on the run, but also do high percentage throws. Like, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. And then when they really relied on him to throw the ball in the third quarter, which I wouldn't have said to do, it just didn't work out, right? It did not work out. I think the way how we saw Brock Purdy play in the Super Bowl, I would bet that Kirk Cousins would have done better. If everything else was identical. Because Brock Purdy did not do anything special in the Super Bowl. He did not play bad. He is not why they lost the game. I am not saying that. I have my whole list of all the reasons why they lost. Brock Purdy is not one of them, okay? I literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reasons on here, okay? Brock Purdy's not one of them. But he was not able to overcome all of the issues that the 49ers had in the Super Bowl. He was not able to overcome. And in a lot of times, you need an overcomer. Patrick Mahomes overcomes some of the weaknesses of the Chiefs, especially this year, to win the game. That's the difference. That ultimately ends up being the difference maker. And again, it's not to say that Brock Purdy won't be the difference maker, because a lot of people will say, this was only his first year starting, his second year in the NFL. That's totally valid. That's why I'm not saying that Brock Purdy's garbage and trash and see you goodbye, never. If Josh Allen's available, I'm saying bye, see ya. If the Eagles had the number 1 pick and could draft Caleb Williams, I would say, you're drafting Caleb Williams and seeing what this guy could do. It's just the way it works. So I think if you could get a Kirk Cousins, you do that, especially if he takes a pay cut and you keep Brock Purdy, because then you could pretty much keep the team the same for the 49ers. And then it's risky. It's interesting. I mean, it's a fascinating move to do because you would then have now Brock Purdy to be able to continue to learn and grow under Kirk Cousins, which I got news for you. Brock Purdy can still learn and grow a lot, right? And doing it from Kirk Cousins would be great. I think their personalities would really, really mesh. And it's not, you wouldn't want to see it as a downgrade for Brock Purdy. More so that, hey, Brock, we're asking too much of you too soon. And we have a team that's ready to win right now. They're all seasoned veterans who have been in multiple Super Bowls, multiple intense playoff series. They've done a lot. They've been around the block. They've played for multiple teams. They've had their heart broken. They've hoisted trophies. They've been there. Brock Purdy has not. He's starting to now be there, but it's still slightly behind. Their primes are not necessarily matching up. You can make the argument that these next 2 years is when it could really match up, but then Brock Purdy would have to take a giant step forward to really make that be, right? And Kirk Cousins might be a sure bet in that regard. And again, this isn't an indictment against Brock Purdy. It's really not. It's actually just trying to put some respect on Kirk Cousins. And if Kirk Cousins doesn't play, then you can always bench him and throw Brock Purdy in there. I mean, it's just how sports is. Like they said, life's not fair. Sports isn't fair. It really is. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's just the way it is. But the 49ers clearly have a win now roster and can win it all. If they had a better quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, if instead of Jimmy Garoppolo they had Josh Allen, they're winning the Super Bowl. If Josh Allen played this past Super Bowl with the 49ers, they're winning the Super Bowl. If Joe Burrow was there, they're winning the Super Bowl, right? And everyone always says if Patrick Mahomes was on the 49ers, they would be the greatest team to ever play in the NFL, and I agree with that. So anytime you can get better at quarterback, you do it. And again, it's not to say that necessarily Kirk Cousins is better than Brock Purdy, or that one day Brock Purdy's ceiling isn't higher. It's just that Kirk Cousins in these situations would most likely do better. And we're yet to really see Kirk Cousins in his actual prime and not be like, a young guy, be in his actual prime with a true elite roster and a true elite offensive head coach in Shanahan. And that's where it all goes. That's when you can maybe see true magic with Kirk Cousins. And so you have to say, is it worth it? I think it is, and I think it would be fascinating. I'd love to see it just from an entertainment perspective, honestly, just because it's interesting. But I think he's probably really happy with Minnesota. I think he'd rather play with Minnesota and not win than jump over to Minnesota and win a Super Bowl. I think, right, he has his family there. He has his house, his community. This is his home. He likes it. He probably enjoys the people. The people in Minnesota are way nicer than Washington. I know that from direct experience. The people in Minnesota are incredibly nice. It's jarring when you're from an East Coast city. You're just like, why are you guys so nice? This doesn't make any sense to me. So I think at the heart of it, Kirk Cousins is just like a good, nice, wholesome family type guy. So I think Minnesota works for him. Minnesota's coach notoriously doesn't, like yelling, doesn't let his coaches yell at his players. Like, it's a very positive, more, dare I say, progressive environment that, again, I think players enjoy playing there, and someone like Kirk Cousins is going to enjoy as well. So I don't even know if this is even a possibility, but from an entertainment standpoint, and just as I view this is just entertainment. Bring it on, right? Like, I just like fascinating stories, and I like to see them unfold. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please do consider giving this video a thumbs up. It really, really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. It's obviously nothing to you. All you do is just click the button, and it really, really does make a difference for me, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.